A Ukrainian soldier has seconds to escape a shell. There have been around 1 million casualties in Ukraine, with roughly 80% caused by artillery fire. North Korea has sold Moscow millions of shells, and Russia is believed to have at least 3 times more than Ukraine. It also has far more troops, now joined by thousands from North Korea, which has one of the world's largest armies. Ukraine's remarkable resistance rests heavily on drones, which are responsible for 65% of destroyed Russian tanks. Costing only $500, they destroy hardware worth millions, and Ukraine has ramped up production to 4 million per year. But drone pilots are losing control to signal jammers, so they're being replaced with autonomous AI drones that don't need a signal. The conflict is driving a dangerous revolution in warfare and splitting the world into 2 increasingly aggressive and militarized camps. Democracies back Ukraine, and autocracies back Russia. Iran provides Putin with drones and ballistic missiles. Finland and Sweden have joined NATO, and member countries have boosted defense spending. Some see the war as an opportunity to weaken Putin, and there are signs that he is under threat.
The ruble is cratering, and there are some very prominent Russians who are now speaking out against this war and against Putin. The latest one is another militia mercenary head, and he's demanding that the army overthrow Putin.
But with Putin jailing or killing those who threaten him, the war could run on for years, and substantial shifts in the front line are rare. It's trench warfare.
Drop! Power, bro. Bro, it's okay, we'll get you out. Promise you we'll get you out, bro.
Despite the deadlock, the war is intensifying as Putin sends more men to the front. He bets on winning the war of attrition with more soldiers, ammunition, and political will.
The Russians sent in their infantry first, like a wave of meat. It was very strange to watch the half shell-shocked people who came forward towards us and shot at us without hiding. After that, the second group followed, the third group, the fourth group.
There are over 1,000 Russian casualties per day, and they've been told they're liberating Ukraine.
Nazis, she says. They always ask, where are the Nazis?
Putin's next step may be to use conscripts, and Ukraine would face a much bigger Russian army, with casualties rising again among men forced to fight. Ukraine, with its far smaller population, already uses conscription, a controversial issue in the country. A poll found that 35% of men not already on the front line are willing to serve, but all men aged 25 to 60 must register for conscription, and some have been dragged from restaurants for failing to register. Men between 18 and 60 are not allowed to leave the country.
At Sergei's wedding, half of the guests didn't show up. Going out in public is now too risky for men who don't want to enlist. But the bride, Tanya, understands why her friends and family don't want to fight. Her father was killed on the front line.
NATO didn't want the war, but should we use it for our uncertain strategic gain without pursuing a ceasefire? The most obvious example may be when Boris Johnson visited Ukraine in 2022, urging them to abandon negotiations with Russia and fight on. While the war diminishes Russia's military, for China, it's depleting Western munitions. The conflict is cementing a powerful anti-NATO bloc and ramping up weapons production.
I will prevent, and very easily, World War III, very easily. Before I even arrive at the Oval Office, I will have the disastrous war between Russia and Ukraine settled. And it will take me no longer than 1 day.
But this emboldens Putin and may diminish the chances of a deal that Ukraine would accept.
Putin thinks he can win tactically. He can't. But whilst he thinks he can, he's not going to want to negotiate.
If they stop the assistance, Ukraine would only have 1 week left. when they run out of ammunition.
We've given them close to $300 billion. And you know what Europe has given them? They've given them like a small fraction of that number, just a small, very small fraction.
Trump has also blamed Zelensky for Russia's invasion, saying he should never have let that war start. He claims he gets along so well with Putin that he can achieve a fair deal. But an expert noted that even with China, Putin's relations are transactional in the extreme.
Ukraine is gone. It's not Ukraine anymore.
What we think he means is that Russia has essentially already won this war, or will. Why bother continuing to help the Ukrainians?
What happens if they win? That's what they do, is they fight wars.
Knowing that Trump wants to end financial support to Ukraine gives Putin a powerful advantage in negotiations. And his demands include Ukrainian forces withdrawing from some of their own territory. Pushing Ukraine to accept Putin's terms would be a stark betrayal.
What that will do is send a message out to other countries around the world that actually, if I take territory by force, I just have to wait a few years before the international community changes and will allow me to keep it. Xi Jinping is sitting watching Taiwan.
Surrounded on all sides, Chinese military drills are taking place around Taiwan. And for the first time, a simulation of a full-scale attack.
We've got the Middle East in the middle. That gets very dangerous because they could all join up. I've never seen a clear path to these sorts of things joining up, and therefore a global conflict. I can see a clear path now, and we have to be very careful.
With less pressure to negotiate, Putin may stick to his impossible terms, including a limit on Ukrainian weapons and the lifting of all sanctions. Prisoner swaps show that Putin is not cut off from negotiation. And a poll in Ukraine found that support for entering talks with Russia has risen to 44%, with 48% against. If the trend continues, a majority may soon favour talks. Ukraine must, of course, agree to any deal, but if we don't try for a ceasefire, if we fail to provide the third-party efforts often crucial for talks, are we fully supporting Ukraine's heroes? Has Putin drained our humanity? When a Ukrainian drone operator spotted this exhausted Russian soldier, instead of dropping a bomb, he dropped water and directions to safety. We may all rely on a similar pivot, because along with the escalating Cold War, military AI could quickly spiral out of control. This drone is piloted by a human. The soldier threw a sack of potatoes at it, and remarkably it worked. He was okay. We can't show the new AI drones targeting soldiers because there is no escape. They are too fast and accurate. The US and China are building vast numbers of AI drones, which can hit many targets at once. Large swarms can overwhelm defenses, striking from different angles at the same time. And it's only possible with AI in control. Humans can't think or react fast enough.
For the first time in the history of aviation, this drone, high-performance drone, was flown by an AI agent.
The US hopes that swarms of drones will counter China's advantage of scale, but China has a much larger manufacturing base, producing 90% of the world's consumer drones. A Harvard study found that the military AI race could well be an existential threat. And here, too, the election is a fork in the road. Trump's allies plan a Manhattan Project for AI to take on China, scaling back AI safety research and regulations, which may benefit Trump's tech donors. Hundreds of experts have warned that mitigating the risk of extinction from AI should be a global priority. Instead, we are handing control to AIs, unpredictable black boxes.
We call it lethal autonomous weapons. The AI system decides where it goes, decides what's a target, decides when to attack the target. This is a recipe for disaster, mass casualty attacks, wiping out whole cities.
Our previous video showed how the sub-goals of survival, control and deceit can emerge, because they make it easier to complete any task.
We need to worry about machines not because they're conscious, but because they're competent. They may take preemptive action to ensure that they can achieve the objective that we gave them.
This could make humanity the target as we currently decide if AI survives. The common sub-goals also apply to humans, but most of us have a moral compass, and if we veer off, we can be caught. Dictators don't have these restraints. They are coldly calculating. And Putin must calculate that we won't abandon Ukraine, forcing him to negotiate. It would present Ukraine with another way to win the war while protecting and honoring its heroes.
Ruslana Danielkina was 18 when she volunteered to defend her country. In this war, everything comes at a cost.
Приїжджаючи сюди, бачивши це все безтурботне життя, яке проживають інші країни, дуже сильно хочеться, щоб в якийсь день і в нашій країні настало мирне небо та спокій.
They have already achieved an incredible victory in stopping the much larger Russian forces from taking their country.
I don't think anyone really read just how determined, how strong, how courageous, and how skillful the Ukrainians would be.
We could make the vast majority of Ukraine, so bravely defended, a thriving, prosperous place with great healthcare and education, everything that Putin's Russia cannot be. Ukraine's population has dropped dramatically. Part of Putin's aim was to boost Russia's population, but many have now left the country and may not return. The battle for people, prosperity, and humanity is one that Ukraine can win decisively. Subscribe to keep up.